Was Columbus a hero or a villain? Christopher Columbus. Even today, more than 5 centuries after he first set sail, his name stirs heated debate and polarizing opinions. For years, schoolbooks have revered him as the courageous navigator who discovered the New World and changed history forever. Yet, as our understanding of the past deepens, Columbus has also become a symbol of exploitation, cultural destruction, and the darker sides of exploration. So who was he really? A hero? A villain? Or something far more complicated? Let's embark on a journey to explore his life, his ventures, and the impact that continues to shape our world. Born in Genoa, Italy, around 1451, Columbus grew up with the sea in his veins. From a young age, he was fascinated with exploration, dreaming of finding new trade routes to the rich markets of the East. However, despite his ambitions, Columbus faced considerable adversity. He struggled for years to find a patron who believed in his radical idea, that sailing westward would lead to Asia. In 1492, his persistence finally paid off. Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain agreed to fund his journey, drawn by promises of wealth, conversion of souls to Christianity, and political prestige. His story could have ended here, just another dreamer with bold ideas. But instead, Columbus would rewrite the course of history. On August 3, 1492, 3 ships, the Niña, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, set sail from Spain. The journey was perilous. The threat of mutiny grew as the crew, terrified of the unknown, became restless after weeks without sight of land. But Columbus, driven by sheer determination, pressed on. Finally, on October 12, 1492, they landed in the Bahamas. Columbus believed he had reached Asia, unaware that he had come upon an entirely new continent. The initial encounter between Europeans and the indigenous Taino people was cautiously friendly. Columbus marveled at their hospitality and simplicity, while the Taino were perplexed by these strange visitors. The expedition had succeeded. Columbus had discovered a world unknown to Europe. Yet, the seeds of tragedy had already been sown. Columbus's voyages undeniably transformed the world. His transatlantic journey was groundbreaking, marking the dawn of the age of exploration. 2 previously disconnected realms came into lasting contact, reshaping economies, cultures, and diets on both sides of the Atlantic. Crops like potatoes and tomatoes were introduced to Europe, while wheat and cattle arrived in the Americas. Beyond agriculture, Columbus's voyages inspired countless explorers to follow in his footsteps. In a sense, he was the first chapter in a global story of adventure and interconnection. But as history reminds us, no progress comes without consequences, and often, those consequences are borne by the powerless. Columbus's encounters were not just moments of cultural exchange, they were also the start of cultural disruption. He returned to the Americas on subsequent voyages, not as a curious explorer, but as a representative of European powers hungry for conquest. This shift escalated the exploitation of indigenous peoples. One of the most devastating consequences of his expeditions was the introduction of diseases like smallpox to the Americas. Native populations, lacking immunity, suffered catastrophic losses, with entire communities being wiped out. What could have been a meeting of cultures instead ushered in an era of devastation for the indigenous peoples of the Caribbean and beyond. Columbus's governorship in Hispaniola further tarnished his reputation. Accounts describe his rule as marked by oppressive policies, forced labor, and violence. Some historians argue that he was a product of his time, a man driven by the values and practices of 15th century Europe. However, his involvement in the mistreatment and subjugation of native populations raises critical questions about his moral legacy. Can we judge Columbus solely by the standards of his era? On one hand, he was a man of remarkable vision and bravery. Navigating uncharted waters with nothing more than basic instruments required immense courage. His belief in a westward route to Asia, though geographically flawed, was revolutionary. On the other hand, the consequences of his actions cannot be ignored. Even if Columbus did not fully grasp the ramifications of his voyages, his legacy includes colonization, the slave trade, and the erasure of native cultures. History enthusiasts today grapple with reconciling these two sides. Were his intentions noble, yet tragically undermined by the systems and circumstances he operated within? Or does he bear responsibility for the suffering that followed as the man who set it into motion? The legacy of Columbus is one of dualities: triumph and tragedy, connection and destruction. His voyages introduced the Columbian Exchange, a period of extraordinary cultural and economic transformation. Yet, that exchange also came at an unimaginable human cost. By linking Europe, Africa, and the Americas, he laid the foundation for globalization, but also for exploitation and inequality. Today, Columbus has become a contested symbol. For some, he represents exploration, achievement, and the spirit of discovery. For others, particularly indigenous peoples, he embodies the beginning of centuries of colonization and marginalization. This divide is evident in debates over statues, the celebration of Columbus Day, and the call to recognize Indigenous Peoples Day instead. As we re-examine history in 2025, Columbus's story offers a vital lesson: the importance of questioning the past through a balanced, critical lens. Instead of accepting simplified narratives of heroism or villainy, we must embrace complexity. Understanding different perspectives allows us to not only acknowledge past wrongs, but also learn from them. The meeting of cultures in the late 15th century reminds us that history is a mirror. It reveals how human ambition, like Columbus's, can drive progress but also inflict harm when paired with ignorance or unchecked power. His voyages symbolize both the heights of human achievement and the depths of human consequence. So, hero or villain? Columbus, like most historical figures, was neither purely one nor the other. He was a man of his time, flawed and ambitious, both responsible for groundbreaking exploration and entangled in the darker realities of his legacy. His story is not just about the past, it's a reflection on what kind of future we want to create. How do we honor human curiosity while ensuring it is tempered with responsibility, empathy, and respect? In uncovering the complexities of Columbus's life, we challenge ourselves to approach history with nuance, understanding the importance of both achievement and accountability. Perhaps that is the real value of examining Columbus in the context of today, not to pick sides, but to learn from his triumphs and his failures. History is more than a list of dates and deeds. It's a collection of human stories, filled with courage, frailty, and consequence. In exploring the legacy of Christopher Columbus, we can better understand how past decisions ripple through time, shaping the world we inhabit today. Now it's your turn. What do you think of Columbus's legacy? Is he the hero your history classes once described, or the tragic villain many believe him to be today? Let us know your thoughts in the comments and join the conversation as we continue to explore history's most complex and compelling figures. Subscribe to this channel, and together, let's keep uncovering the truth behind the stories that shaped our world.